The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Ambassador Zephyr 9 of the Altrurian Empire presented the latest intelligence reports. Holographic displays showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star in what humans called the Milky Way galaxy. The assembled representatives from 12 different species leaned forward in their specialized seating arrangements, each designed for their unique physiologies. Honored colleagues, Zephyr 9 began, their crystalline voice resonating through the chamber's translation matrix. We have completed our preliminary assessment of the third planet in the Sol system. The inhabitants call themselves humans, and our findings are most encouraging. Commander Throck of the warrior Kravaxian species shifted his massive bulk, causing his armor plates to scrape against his chair. Encouraging how, Crystal Singer? Are they warriors worth testing our blades against? Zephyr 9's form shimmered with what other species had learned to recognize as amusement. Quite the opposite, Commander. Our observation probes have monitored their global communications, social structures, and conflict resolution methods for the past 6 Earth months. The humans appear to be remarkably peaceful. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. Peaceful species were rare in the galaxy, and usually made excellent candidates for integration into the Galactic Council's protection protocols. Such species often possessed advanced technologies or cultural innovations that benefited the greater galactic community. Show us the evidence, requested Dr. Helix, the Serpentine Empire's chief xenobiologist, her scaled head swaying with curiosity. The central hologram shifted to display various scenes from Earth. Children playing in parks, people helping elderly citizens cross streets, massive concerts where thousands gathered peacefully, international disaster relief efforts, and wildlife conservation programs. The images painted a picture of a species that had seemingly evolved beyond the brutal competition that marked most sentient life. Observe their urban centers, Zephyr 9 continued, highlighting footage of busy city streets. Millions of individuals coexist in close proximity with minimal violent incidents. Their crime rates have been declining steadily for decades. They have established international organizations dedicated to preventing conflicts and protecting their environment. Admiral Nexus of the Void Swimmers gestured with one of his tentacles. What of their military capabilities? Surely they maintain some form of defense forces. Indeed they do, Zephyr 9 acknowledged. But their military expenditures have been decreasing as a percentage of their global economic output. Many of their nations have eliminated mandatory military service. Their soldiers are increasingly deployed for humanitarian missions rather than conquest. The evidence continued to mount. Humans had largely eliminated several diseases through coordinated global vaccination efforts. They had international laws protecting endangered species. Their entertainment media celebrated cooperation, sacrifice for others, and peaceful resolution of conflicts. Even their competitive sports emphasized fair play and good sportsmanship. President Morphax of the Democratic Worlds Alliance seemed particularly impressed. Their approach to resource management shows remarkable restraint. Despite having the technology to strip mine their entire planet, they have established protected areas covering significant portions of their landmass. The humans demonstrate unusual empathy even toward other species on their planet, Dr. Helix added. Studying the biological data, they maintain facilities dedicated solely to caring for injured wild animals, expecting no return on investment. Some humans dedicate their entire lives to protecting creatures that provide them no direct benefit. Commander Throck snorted, a sound like grinding metal. Soft. They sound weak and soft. How did such creatures survive long enough to develop spaceflight capabilities? Actually, Commander, they have not yet achieved interstellar travel, Zephyr 9 corrected. Our probes observed them from beyond their detection range. They are still confined to their home system, though they have established small outposts on their natural satellite and begun exploring nearby planets with robotic probes. This revelation sparked considerable interest. A peaceful species on the verge of space travel was an ideal candidate for first contact protocols. Such species could be guided into the galactic community gradually, without the usual complications of territorial conflicts or resource disputes that marked most emerging civilizations. I propose we initiate contact. Protocol 7, suggested Ambassador Quinn of the Peaceful Traders Collective, a gradual introduction designed for cooperative species. We begin with passive observation to confirm their peaceful nature, followed by limited cultural exchange and finally formal diplomatic contact. The proposal received widespread support. Protocol 7 had been successfully implemented with 4 other species over the past millennium, resulting in smooth integrations that benefited all parties involved. The peaceful nature of humans made them ideal candidates for rapid advancement in galactic society. However, Admiral Nexus raised a tentacle in caution. Should we not conduct more extensive observations? 6 months seems insufficient to truly understand any species, particularly one that has recently developed nuclear technology. Admiral Nexus raises a valid concern. Dr. Helix agreed. However, our behavioral analysis algorithms have processed thousands of hours of their communications and social interactions. The patterns are remarkably consistent across all geographic regions and cultural groups. Their peaceful nature appears to be a fundamental aspect of their species' evolution. Zephyr 9 brought up additional data supporting this conclusion. Human mythology and historical records showed a clear progression from more violent past eras toward increasingly sophisticated peaceful coexistence. Their current generation appeared to have learned from the mistakes of their ancestors. Furthermore, Zephyr 9 continued, their environmental protection efforts suggest they think in terms of long-term sustainability, rather than short-term exploitation. This indicates wisdom and restraint rarely seen in young civilizations. The debate continued for several hours, but the conclusion seemed inevitable. The evidence overwhelmingly supported the assessment that humans were a peaceful species, ready for galactic contact. Their technology level was sufficient for meaningful exchange. Their social structures appeared stable and egalitarian, and their environmental consciousness suggested they would be responsible members of the galactic community. As the session drew to a close, Commander Throck remained skeptical. Mark my words, colleagues. No species survives long enough to reach space without developing some capacity for violence. These humans may hide their true nature better than most, but it exists somewhere beneath their peaceful facade. Zephyr 9's form shimmered with polite disagreement. Commander, your warrior instincts serve you well in many situations, but perhaps they cause you to see threats where none exist. Some species genuinely evolve beyond the need for violence. The humans appear to be one such remarkable example. The vote was called and the decision was unanimous except for Commander Throck's abstention. Contact Protocol 7 would commence immediately, beginning with more detailed cultural and biological surveys to prepare for eventual diplomatic contact. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, none of them noticed the small notation in the appendix of the intelligence report, a minor reference to something called a honey badger that had been flagged by the observation protocols but dismissed as irrelevant to the assessment of human peaceful nature. After all, it was just one small animal among millions of species on the planet. The Council had made their decision based on comprehensive analysis of human civilization. What could one insignificant creature possibly tell them about an entire species? Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her field equipment as she crouched behind a cluster of acacia trees in the Kalahari Desert. The xenobiologist had spent 3 years studying animal behavior patterns for her dissertation, but today's observation session was different. High above the Earth's atmosphere, alien technology was recording her every movement, though she remained completely unaware of the scrutiny. Day 47 of Honey Badger Behavioral Analysis. She whispered into her voice recorder. Subject Badger 7, adult female, approximately 8 kilograms, has established territory near the research station. Preparing to document hunting and territorial behavior. 300 kilometers above her position, the Altrurian observation probe designated Survey Prime 7 automatically cataloged her words and cross-referenced them with the growing database of human activities. The artificial intelligence aboard the probe had been programmed to identify and analyze any behavior patterns that might indicate aggressive or violent tendencies in the human species. So far, the AI had found Dr. Chen's research to be another example of human scientific curiosity and environmental stewardship. The fact that she dedicated her time to studying a small African carnivore reinforced the assessment that humans were a peaceful species with genuine interest in understanding and protecting other life forms. The honey badger emerged from its burrow as the morning sun heated the desert floor. Dr. Chen activated her camera equipment and began recording. Badger 7 moved with purposeful efficiency, her powerful claws leaving distinct tracks in the sand. The creature's black and silver fur gleamed in the sunlight as she began her morning hunt. Fascinating, Dr. Chen murmured. Despite their fearsome reputation, honey badgers display remarkable intelligence and problem-solving abilities. This individual has learned to avoid the research station while maintaining optimal foraging routes. What Dr. Chen witnessed next would have fundamentally altered the Galactic Council's assessment of Earth had they been paying proper attention to the data their probes collected. Unfortunately, the AI aboard Survey Prime 7 was programmed to focus on human behavior, not the behavior of Earth's other inhabitants. Badger 7 had detected the scent of a ground squirrel colony. She approached the area with methodical determination, using her acute hearing to locate the underground burrow system. With explosive speed, she began digging, her powerful claws tearing through hard-packed earth like it was loose sand. The ground squirrels, sensing danger, began their alarm calls and evacuation procedures, but Badger 7 was relentless. She pursued them through tunnel after tunnel, her compact body perfectly designed for underground combat. When one squirrel attempted to escape through a side tunnel, she intercepted it with lightning-fast reflexes, delivering a killing bite with surgical precision. Dr. Chen documented the hunt with scientific detachment, but even she felt a chill at the honey badger's ruthless efficiency. Subject demonstrates extraordinary persistence and tactical awareness. The hunting sequence shows advanced planning and adaptation to prey behavior patterns. The feeding that followed would have shocked the peaceful alien observers had they been watching. Badger 7 consumed her prey with methodical thoroughness, her powerful jaws crushing bones as easily as cartilage. Nothing was wasted. The honey badger's approach to nutrition was total and uncompromising. As the morning progressed, Badger 7 encountered a juvenile puff adder coiled beneath a rocky outcropping. Most creatures would have avoided the venomous snake, but the honey badger's response was immediate and decisive. She attacked without hesitation, using her thick skin and remarkable resistance to venom as natural armor. The battle was brief but vicious. The puff adder struck repeatedly, injecting enough venom to kill a creature 3 times the honey badger's size. Badger 7 absorbed the strikes and continued her assault, eventually seizing the snake behind its head and crushing its skull with mechanical precision. Incredible, Dr. Chen breathed into her recorder. The honey badger appears largely immune to the puff adder's venom. This individual will likely experience temporary paralysis in the affected limb, but will recover completely within hours. What the xenobiologist was witnessing was millions of years of evolutionary warfare distilled into one small, but impossibly tough predator. The honey badger's ancestors had survived in one of Earth's most hostile environments by becoming more dangerous than everything else that lived there. The afternoon brought even more dramatic demonstrations of the honey badger's capabilities. A troop of baboons had moved into the area, searching for water and food. Adult male baboons were formidable opponents, with strength far superior to humans and sharp canine teeth designed for combat. When the largest male baboon attempted to intimidate Badger 7 away from a water source, the honey badger's response was swift and terrifying. She didn't retreat or submit. Instead, she charged directly at the much larger primate, targeting its most vulnerable areas with calculated aggression. The baboon, despite its size advantage, quickly retreated. The entire troop moved away from the waterhole, ceding the territory to a creature that weighed less than 1/10 of an adult male baboon's mass. Dr. Chen watched in fascination as Badger 7 calmly returned to drinking, showing no signs of stress or exhaustion from the confrontation. The honey badger's fearless response to larger predators appears to be an evolutionary adaptation. By demonstrating willingness to fight regardless of size differences, they effectively discourage most potential conflicts. As evening approached, the honey badger's territorial patrol brought her into contact with her most dangerous local rival, another honey badger. Badger 12, an adult male, had been ranging into her territory for several days. The confrontation was inevitable. The battle that followed was unlike anything Dr. Chen had previously observed in her studies of African wildlife. Both animals fought with absolute commitment, using their powerful claws and crushing jaws against each other. They rolled and tumbled across the desert floor, neither giving ground despite serious injuries. The male was larger and stronger, but the female was defending established territory and had the advantage of intimate knowledge of the local terrain. The fight continued for nearly 20 minutes, both animals sustaining wounds that would have incapacitated most other species. Finally, Badger 12 withdrew, limping but not seriously injured. Badger 7 had successfully defended her territory through superior tactical thinking and uncompromising aggression. She immediately began grooming her wounds, preparing for the next challenge that would inevitably come. High above, Survey Prime 7 recorded Dr. Chen's activities and her scientific commentary about honey badger behavior. The AI cataloged her observations as another example of human intellectual curiosity and peaceful coexistence with local wildlife. The actual behavior of the honey badger was filed under local fauna behavior and marked as irrelevant to the assessment of human civilization. That evening, as Dr. Chen uploaded her day's observations to the research database, she included a note that would prove prophetic. The honey badger represents the perfect example of how evolution can produce a small predator capable of dominating creatures many times its size through superior aggression, tactical intelligence, and absolute refusal to submit to superior force. In many ways, she continued typing, the honey badger embodies characteristics that humans possessed during our own evolutionary development, but have largely abandoned in favor of cooperative social structures. The alien probe recorded these words and filed them appropriately. The assessment remained unchanged. Humans were a peaceful species, suitable for integration into galactic civilization. The honey badger data was irrelevant to understanding human nature. After all, what could the behavior of one small animal possibly reveal about an entire technological civilization? The first contact ship Harmony's Promise dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its gleaming hull reflecting the distant light of Sol. Captain Veltar of the Altrurian Empire stood on the bridge, reviewing the final preparations for humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. All systems operational. Captain, reported Navigation Officer Credan. We are maintaining position beyond their sensor range as specified in Contact Protocol 7. Captain Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with satisfaction. After 6 months of preparation, the peaceful integration of humanity into the Galactic Council was about to begin. The process had been designed to minimize cultural shock while establishing the foundation for beneficial exchange between species. Communications. Prepare the initial broadcast package, Veltar ordered. We will begin with mathematical concepts and basic scientific principles, just as we did with the Peaceful Traders and the Garden Worlds Alliance. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. First contact was their specialty, and humanity represented exactly the type of species that made their work rewarding. Unlike the aggressive civilizations that required complex military negotiations, peaceful species could be approached with offers of knowledge and cultural exchange. Dr. Helix had joined the mission as senior xenobiologist, her expertise crucial for understanding human biology and psychology during the contact process. She slithered across the bridge to review the latest observational data from the surface probes. Captain, the humans have made remarkable progress in just the few months since our initial assessment, she reported. They have successfully launched 3 more research missions to their outer planets, and their international cooperation on climate change initiatives has reached unprecedented levels. Excellent, Veltar replied. Their commitment to environmental protection and peaceful cooperation confirms our assessment. They will make ideal members of the Council. What the Harmony's Promise crew didn't know was that their arrival had already been detected by Earth's most advanced space monitoring systems. Deep in the Nevada desert, the classified Project Skywatch had been tracking anomalous objects at the edge of the solar system for the past week. General Patricia Morrison stood in the underground command center, studying the data with growing concern. 27 years of military service had taught her to prepare for every possibility, including the one that politicians preferred to ignore. Sir, the object maintains position at approximately 40 astronomical units from Earth, reported Lieutenant Colonel James Park, the project's chief analyst. Its energy signature is unlike anything in our database, and its ability to maintain stable position without orbital mechanics suggests advanced propulsion technology. Recommendations, Colonel? Morrison asked. Based on size and energy output, we're looking at a spacecraft of unknown origin. The technology level appears to be significantly beyond our current capabilities. If it's observing us, we have to assume it has been doing so for an extended period. Morrison nodded grimly. While the world's media celebrated humanity's recent achievements in space exploration and international cooperation, a small group of military and intelligence professionals had been quietly preparing for the possibility that Earth was not alone in the universe. Initiate Condition Yellow. Throughout all defense networks, she ordered, I want every satellite, submarine, and radar installation on standby. No visible preparations, but I want our people ready. The irony was profound. While alien observers congratulated themselves on humanity's peaceful nature, the species they were preparing to contact had never completely abandoned the survival instincts that had carried them through millions of years of evolutionary warfare. Aboard the Harmony's Promise, Captain Veltar was unaware that his ship's presence had been detected. The first contact protocol specifically called for initial observation from beyond the target species detection capabilities, followed by a gradual revelation designed to minimize shock and fear. Begin transmission of the mathematical sequence, Veltar ordered. Standard progression from prime numbers through basic geometric principles. The signal went out, a carefully crafted sequence of radio pulses designed to demonstrate intelligence without causing alarm. The transmission was aimed at several major radio telescope installations on Earth, ensuring that human scientists would detect and analyze the obviously artificial pattern. At the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, Dr. Maria Santos was conducting routine deep space observations when her equipment registered the incoming signal. Her first reaction was excitement. After decades of searching, humanity might finally have detected evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Her second reaction, after analyzing the signal's mathematical precision and artificial origin, was to follow the protocols established by the international SETI community. Within hours, observatories around the world were confirming the reception of clearly artificial signals from beyond the solar system. The news reached global media within 12 hours, despite attempts by various governments to control the release of information. Humanity's first confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence dominated every news cycle, sparked massive public celebrations, and caused stock markets to fluctuate wildly as investors tried to predict the economic implications. The public reaction was everything the aliens had hoped for. Peaceful demonstrations in major cities celebrated the historic moment. Religious leaders spoke of humanity's destiny among the stars. Scientists held press conferences discussing the implications for human knowledge and technology. But in secure facilities around the world, a different kind of preparation was taking place. In Moscow, General Dmitry Volkov reviewed deployment orders for Russia's most advanced defense systems. If they intended to destroy us, they would have done so already, he told his staff. But we must be prepared for any possibility. At Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, Space Force Colonel Sarah Williams coordinated with international partners to monitor the alien vessel's movements. Their technology appears peaceful so far, she reported to Joint Chiefs Headquarters. But we're tracking energy signatures that suggest capabilities far beyond our defensive systems. In Beijing, Admiral Chen Wei discussed contingency plans with the Central Military Commission. The Americans and Russians are mobilizing quietly, he observed. We cannot afford to be unprepared if this peaceful contact turns hostile. The irony deepened as days passed. While alien observers interpreted humanity's celebrating crowds and international cooperation as confirmation of their peaceful nature, military commanders around the world were quietly implementing defensive preparations based on the assumption that any technologically superior species might eventually become a threat. Captain Veltar, monitoring human communications and public reactions, was delighted with the progress. Their response could not be more ideal, he reported to Galactic Council headquarters. Celebration, scientific curiosity, and international cooperation. No signs of the territorial aggression or xenophobic fear responses we observe in warrior species. Dr. Helix agreed completely. Their media broadcasts show remarkable unity and optimism. They appear to view our contact as an opportunity for mutual benefit, rather than a potential threat. This species has truly evolved beyond the aggressive instincts that plague most developing civilizations. The alien analysis was technically accurate. Humanity's public response was indeed peaceful, curious, and cooperative. But the aliens had made a fundamental error in their assessment. They had observed human civilization during a period of relative peace and prosperity, and concluded that humans had abandoned their capacity for violence. What they failed to understand was that humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not an evolutionary limitation. Humans had developed sophisticated social structures and international institutions precisely because they understood their own capacity for destruction. They had learned to cooperate because they remembered the costs of conflict. The honey badger in the Kalahari Desert continued its daily hunts, demonstrating the kind of relentless tactical aggression that had once characterized human survival strategies. Dr. Chen continued documenting its behavior, noting the creature's ability to defeat much larger opponents through superior determination and willingness to fight, regardless of the odds. But the alien observers remained focused on humanity's peaceful achievements, interpreting cooperation as weakness rather than recognizing it as the ultimate expression of strength, the ability to choose peace while retaining the capacity for war. As the first week of contact concluded, both species prepared for the next phase of interaction. The aliens planned to reveal themselves gradually, confident in their assessment of human peaceful nature. The humans prepared in their own way, publicly celebrating while privately ensuring that if peaceful cooperation failed, they would be ready for alternatives that their evolutionary history had taught them to never completely abandon. 3 weeks after first contact, the Harmony's promise moved closer to Earth, positioning itself just beyond the orbit of Mars. Captain Veltar had received approval from the Galactic Council to begin Phase 2 of Contact Protocol 7, Limited Visual Revelation. Dr. Helix, are you satisfied with our analysis of human psychological preparedness? The captain asked. The serpentine xenobiologist coiled herself around her workstation, reviewing the data streams from Earth. Absolutely, Captain. Human response patterns indicate remarkable emotional stability. Their scientists have been analyzing our mathematical communications with impressive speed, and their public discourse remains overwhelmingly positive. Excellent. Prepare for limited photonic revelation. We will allow their optical telescopes to detect our vessel during the next orbital period. What the alien crew didn't realize was that their ship had been under constant observation by Earth's most advanced military surveillance systems since the moment they entered the inner solar system. The movement toward Mars had triggered immediate responses from defense networks that had been quietly activated weeks earlier. At the Pentagon, General Morrison convened an emergency session of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. High-resolution images of the alien vessel filled the secure briefing room's main display. The ship is approximately 2 kilometers in length, reported Admiral Kate Thompson, head of Space Force Intelligence. Its hull composition appears to be some form of crystalline material unknown to our science. Energy output suggests propulsion systems operating on principles we don't understand. General Morrison studied the images carefully. Assessment of weapons capabilities? Unknown, sir. The ship's design appears peaceful, almost decorative. No obvious weapon ports or defensive systems visible. However, given their technological superiority, weapon systems could be integrated into the hull structure in ways we can't detect. Air Force General David Park raised his hand. What's the international response? The Russians have mobilized their entire space defense network, Admiral Thompson replied. The Chinese have moved 3 submarine fleets to positions near major population centers. The Europeans are coordinating through NATO channels, but they're following our lead for now. And the public still doesn't know about our preparations? Correct, sir. As far as the media and civilian populations know, this is still a peaceful scientific contact. All military activities are being conducted under existing training and readiness exercises. The irony was becoming more pronounced by the day. While humanity presented a peaceful face to their alien observers, every major military power on Earth was quietly preparing for the possibility that first contact might not remain friendly. Aboard the Harmony's Promise, the crew celebrated as Earth's telescopes began detecting their vessel. Communications arrays around the planet lit up with excited chatter as astronomers confirmed visual contact with the source of the mathematical signals. Phase 2. Proceeding perfectly, Captain Veltar reported to Council headquarters. Human scientific community is responding with appropriate curiosity and excitement. No signs of the panic or aggressive posturing typical of warrior species. Dr. Helix monitored the global communications networks, translating human languages and analyzing emotional content. Their reaction is textbook peaceful species behavior, Captain. celebration, scientific inquiry, and international cooperation. I'm particularly impressed by their immediate establishment of a joint international committee to coordinate contact protocols. The International First Contact Committee had indeed been established. Within hours of confirming visual contact with the alien vessel, representatives from major space agencies, the United Nations, and scientific institutions worldwide gathered in Geneva to coordinate humanity's response. Dr. Elena Vasquez, director of the European Space Agency, addressed the committee's opening session. This represents the most significant moment in human history. We must ensure our response reflects the best of human civilization, our curiosity, our desire for knowledge, and our commitment to peaceful exploration. The delegates agreed unanimously to transmit a response to the alien signals, combining mathematical concepts with basic information about human science and culture. The message would be broadcast from multiple locations, demonstrating international cooperation and peaceful intent. What the delegates didn't know was that every major government represented at the conference had also authorized military preparations. While diplomats spoke of peace and cooperation, strategic planners calculated response scenarios for potential threats. At Cheyenne Mountain, the North American Aerospace Defense Command had quietly activated its deepest protocols. Colonel Sarah Martinez monitored the situation from the underground command center, coordinating with similar facilities around the world. The alien vessel remains in stable orbit around Mars, she reported to Washington. No changes in energy signature or position. But we need to consider the possibility that this is reconnaissance for a larger force. The assessment was shared by defense establishments worldwide. While public attention focused on the peaceful implications of first contact, military analysts studied the aliens' technological capabilities and developed contingency plans for scenarios ranging from cultural exchange to invasion. Meanwhile, in the Kalahari Desert, Dr. Sarah Chen continued her behavioral studies, unaware that her research subject was about to provide the most relevant data about human nature that anyone could have requested. Badger 7 had encountered a new challenge. A pack of jackals had moved into her territory, attracted by the reliable water source near the research station. The pack consisted of 6 adults, each larger than the honey badger, and experienced in cooperative hunting strategies. Dr. Chen positioned herself to observe the inevitable confrontation. Day 68 of Honey Badger Behavioral Analysis. Subject Badger 7 is approaching a group of 6 jackals that have established temporary residence near the primary water source. This represents the most significant territorial challenge documented during the study period. The jackals had every advantage except one. They were dealing with a honey badger. When Badger 7 approached the water source, the pack attempted to intimidate her through coordinated posturing and threatening vocalizations. The honey badger's response was immediate and educational. Rather than retreat or attempt to negotiate, she attacked the largest male jackal with explosive violence. Her first strike targeted the jackal's rear leg, using her powerful claws to inflict a crippling injury that would permanently affect the animal's mobility. The pack attempted to use their numerical advantage, surrounding the honey badger and attacking from multiple directions. But Badger 7 had fought multiple opponents before. She used the terrain to her advantage, positioning herself against a rock outcropping that protected her from attacks from behind. The battle that followed demonstrated tactical principles that human military strategists would have recognized immediately. The honey badger identified the pack's weakest member and focused her attacks to remove it from the fight. She used the injured jackal's panic to create confusion among the others. When 2 jackals attempted to coordinate an attack, she turned on the smaller one with such ferocity that it fled immediately. Within 20 minutes, the pack had withdrawn. 2 jackals were seriously injured, and all of them had learned that the water source belonged to a creature that would fight to the death rather than surrender territory. Dr. Chen recorded the encounter with scientific fascination. The honey badger's tactical approach demonstrates sophisticated understanding of group dynamics and territorial warfare. Despite being outnumbered 6-1, Subject Badger 7 successfully defended her territory through superior aggression and strategic thinking. She paused, then added a note that would have changed the entire course of first contact if the aliens had been paying attention. The honey badger's behavior represents the kind of tactical thinking and absolute commitment to territorial defense that allowed small human populations to survive against much larger, predatory species during our evolutionary development. High above Earth's atmosphere, alien observation probes continued cataloging human peaceful behavior, while completely ignoring the behavioral patterns of the species that had taught humans their most important survival lessons. As the fourth week of contact began, both sides prepared for the next phase of interaction. The aliens planned to transmit their first audio-visual communications, confident that they were dealing with a species that had evolved beyond the need for defensive thinking. The humans prepared their response with typical thoroughness, combining genuine excitement about peaceful contact with quiet readiness for alternatives that their honey badger ancestors had never allowed them to completely forget. In secure facilities around the world, strategists studied the alien vessel and planned for contingencies that their peaceful public statements would never acknowledge. After all, as any honey badger could have told them, the most successful survival strategy was to appear peaceful while remaining ready for war. Captain Veltar stood before the main communications array aboard the Harmony's Promise, preparing to make history. After 4 weeks of mathematical exchanges and visual confirmation, the time had come for direct audio-visual contact with humanity. Dr. Helix, confirm that our translation protocols are properly calibrated, the captain ordered. All systems ready. Captain, the serpentine xenobiologist replied. Our linguistic analysis algorithms have processed thousands of hours of human communications. We can communicate effectively in their primary languages. Excellent. Begin transmission of First Contact Protocol 7, Phase 3. The message that went out to Earth was carefully crafted to inspire wonder rather than fear. Captain Veltar appeared on screen in a peaceful garden setting aboard his ship, surrounded by flowering plants from various worlds. His crystalline form sparkled gently in the artificial sunlight, designed to appear beautiful rather than threatening. Greetings, people of Earth, he began, his words transmitted in 12 major human languages simultaneously. I am Captain Veltar of the Galactic Council vessel Harmony's Promise. We come in peace, offering friendship and knowledge to your remarkable species. The transmission continued for nearly an hour, carefully explaining the existence of the Galactic Council, the diversity of peaceful species throughout the galaxy, and the invitation for humanity to join the greater galactic community. Every word had been chosen to emphasize cooperation, mutual benefit, and the wonderful future that awaited peaceful species among the stars. On Earth, the reaction was everything the aliens had hoped for, and exactly what human leaders had expected. The public response was overwhelmingly positive, with massive celebrations in major cities and renewed international cooperation on space programs. But in secure facilities around the world, the transmission triggered immediate analysis by experts who understood that first contact represented both humanity's greatest opportunity and its greatest potential threat. At the Pentagon, General Morrison convened an emergency assessment session. Analysis of the transmission, people. What are we dealing with? Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the Defense Department's chief xenolinguistics expert, presented her findings. The linguistic patterns suggest highly advanced translation technology, probably artificial intelligence-based. But there are interesting anomalies in their cultural assumptions. Explain. They consistently refer to humanity as a peaceful species and emphasize our environmental protection efforts and international cooperation. But they seem to have no awareness of our military capabilities or strategic thinking. It's as if they've observed our civilian population but completely missed our defense establishments. Colonel Park from Project Skywatch added his assessment. Technical analysis of their ship suggests capabilities far beyond our current understanding. But the vessel's design appears optimized for exploration and diplomacy, rather than warfare. No obvious weapon systems, no defensive shielding that we can detect. General Morrison frowned. Could be a deception. Advanced civilizations might integrate weapons into their hull structure in ways we can't recognize. Possible, sir. But their approach suggests they genuinely believe we're a peaceful species that poses no threat to them. The assessment was shared with allied defense establishments worldwide. In Moscow, Beijing, London, and New Delhi, military strategists reached similar conclusions. The aliens appeared to be genuinely peaceful, but had fundamentally misunderstood human nature. Admiral Chen Wei, addressing the Chinese Central Military Commission, put it most succinctly. They have mistaken our choice to cooperate for an inability to fight. This could be either an enormous advantage or a catastrophic disadvantage, depending on their true intentions. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony's Promise, Captain Veltar was delighted with humanity's response. Global communications networks carried messages of welcome and gratitude. The International First Contact Committee had prepared a formal response accepting the invitation to join galactic civilization. Dr. Helix, this could not be proceeding more smoothly, Veltar observed. The humans are responding exactly as Protocol 7 predicted for peaceful species. Indeed, Captain. Their enthusiasm for knowledge exchange and cultural cooperation confirms all our assessments. I recommend we proceed to Phase 4 ahead of schedule. Phase 4 called for the first physical exchange. A small delegation of humans would be invited aboard the Harmony's Promise for direct cultural contact. It was the ultimate test of a species' peaceful nature, requiring enormous trust from both sides. What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity's response to their invitation was being shaped by strategic thinking that went far beyond simple acceptance or rejection. In Geneva, the International First Contact Committee was indeed preparing a delegation to visit the alien ship. But the selection process involved considerations that Protocol 7 had never anticipated. Dr. Elena Vasquez chaired the selection committee, but every member understood that their decisions were being influenced by security consultations with their respective governments. The delegation must represent the best of human civilization, Dr. Vasquez stated publicly. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and diplomats who can effectively communicate our values and aspirations. Privately, the selection process was far more complex. Each delegate would carry sophisticated recording and analysis equipment disguised as personal items. Military psychologists had provided detailed briefings on information gathering techniques and threat assessment protocols. Colonel Martinez, representing Space Force interests, spoke to the American delegation members in a classified briefing. Your primary mission is cultural exchange and diplomacy, but you will also be our eyes and ears aboard that ship. We need to understand their technology, their capabilities, and most importantly, their actual intentions. Similar briefings were taking place in secure facilities around the world. The European delegates received instructions from NATO intelligence. The Chinese representatives were briefed by military analysts. The Russian delegation underwent extensive preparation by strategic assessment specialists. Every major power on Earth was sending their brightest minds to participate in humanity's first diplomatic mission to an alien civilization. But every delegate also understood that they were intelligence assets whose observations might determine humanity's survival if peaceful contact failed. In the Kalahari Desert, Dr. Sarah Chen was documenting the most relevant behavior patterns that any human could have observed, though she remained unaware of their significance to current events. Badger 7 had encountered a new type of threat. A young leopard had entered her territory, drawn by the scent of water and prey animals. Leopards were apex predators in the region, with size, strength, and hunting experience that should have made them untouchable by smaller creatures. Dr. Chen positioned herself to observe the confrontation, expecting to witness the honey badger's first strategic retreat. Instead, she documented one of the most instructive examples of asymmetric warfare in the animal kingdom. Day 75 of honey badger behavioral analysis, she recorded. Subject Badger 7 has encountered a juvenile leopard, approximately 3 times her body weight and equipped with superior natural weapons. The leopard appears confident and curious, investigating the honey badger's territory. Badger 7's response demonstrated principles that human military strategists had been using for millennia. Rather than flee or submit, she chose the time and place for the confrontation. She positioned herself near a cluster of rocks that would limit the leopard's mobility advantage, while providing cover for her own attacks. When the leopard approached within striking distance, the honey badger attacked with calculated ferocity. But this wasn't a mindless assault, it was a strategic demonstration, designed to convince a superior opponent that continued conflict would be too costly to pursue. The honey badger's first strike targeted the leopard's front paw, using her powerful claws to inflict a painful but not crippling injury. When the leopard retaliated, she dodged and immediately counterattacked, targeting the big cat's rear leg. The pattern continued for several minutes. Every time the leopard attempted to use its superior size and strength, the honey badger demonstrated that victory would come at an unacceptable cost. She was smaller and weaker, but her tactical approach and absolute refusal to retreat made her a threat that the leopard couldn't safely ignore or easily eliminate. Eventually, the leopard withdrew. It had superior capabilities, but the honey badger had convinced it that conquest of her territory would require an expenditure of energy and risk of injury that exceeded any potential benefit. Dr. Chen recorded her observations with growing excitement. The honey badger's strategic approach demonstrates sophisticated cost-benefit analysis and tactical deception. By making conflict appear more costly than avoidance, she successfully deterred a superior opponent without sustaining serious injury. She paused, then added a note that would have revolutionized alien understanding of human nature. This behavior pattern, appearing peaceful while maintaining the capability and willingness to make aggression prohibitively expensive, represents the evolutionary strategy that allowed early humans to survive in environments dominated by physically superior predators. Hi. The human delegation shuttle approached the Harmony's Promise with engines running silent, its hull gleaming in the reflected light of Mars. Inside the small vessel, 12 representatives of humanity prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in their species' history. Dr. Elena Vasquez, mission commander, reviewed her final briefing notes while maintaining the appearance of casual scientific curiosity. Hidden within her tablet's memory were detailed technical specifications that military analysts wanted her to obtain if possible. Remember, everyone, she addressed the team. We represent all of humanity today. Our primary mission is to establish peaceful relations and learn about galactic civilization. What she didn't say, what every delegate already understood, was that they also represented humanity's survival interests. Each team member carried concealed recording devices and had memorized intelligence-gathering protocols that could prove crucial if this peaceful contact ever turned hostile. Dr. James Morrison, the team's xenobiologist and no relation to the Pentagon general, adjusted his equipment pack nervously. The alien ship is beautiful, he observed, studying the crystalline vessel through the shuttle's viewports. It looks more like a piece of art than a spacecraft. Captain Maria Santos, the team's pilot and a former military officer, kept her assessment to herself. The ship was indeed beautiful, but her tactical training automatically noted the lack of obvious defensive systems, the vulnerable-looking crystalline construction, and the curious absence of what human engineers would consider basic military precautions. Aboard the Harmony's Promise, Captain Veltar and his crew prepared to welcome their first human guests. The cultural exchange halls had been decorated with plants and artwork from across the galaxy, designed to inspire wonder and demonstrate the peaceful diversity of galactic civilization. Dr. Helix confirmed that all translation and cultural interface systems are operational, the captain ordered. Everything is ready, Captain, the serpentine xenobiologist replied.
The humans should find our environment comfortable and inspiring.
I've prepared presentations on galactic history, the benefits of council membership, and the technologies we're prepared to share with peaceful species. Excellent. This will be a historic moment, humanity's first step toward joining our peaceful community among the stars. The docking proceeded smoothly, and within minutes the human delegation was breathing alien air aboard their first extraterrestrial vessel. The technology was magnificent, the hospitality genuine, and the cultural presentations fascinating. Dr. Vasquez found herself genuinely impressed by the aliens' achievements. Cities that housed billions of beings from dozens of species, technologies that could terraform entire planets, and a galactic civilization that had apparently eliminated warfare for thousands of years. Your council has accomplished remarkable things, she told Captain Veltar during the formal welcome ceremony. Humanity would be honored to learn from such an advanced civilization. The honor is ours, Veltar replied, his crystalline form glowing with pleasure. Peaceful species like humanity are the foundation of our galactic community. Your environmental consciousness and cooperative spirit will be valuable additions to our alliance. As the tour continued, each human delegate gathered information according to their specialized training. Dr. Morrison studied the aliens' biological systems and medical technologies. Engineer Lisa Park analyzed their propulsion and power generation systems. Anthropologist David Chen observed their social structures and decision-making processes. All of their observations confirmed the same conclusion. The aliens were genuinely peaceful, technologically advanced, and completely unprepared for conflict with any species that retained capacity for strategic thinking. The crystalline hull that looked so beautiful was actually a vulnerability. It would shatter under kinetic impact. The ship's power systems were designed for efficiency rather than redundancy, making them susceptible to targeted disruption. Most tellingly, the aliens had no security protocols, no restricted areas, and no apparent concept that guests might have ulterior motives. Captain Santos, with her military background, was particularly struck by the aliens' naive openness. They showed the humans every system on the ship, explained their technologies in detail, and answered every question without apparent concern for operational security. "Your vessel is remarkable," she told Captain Veltar. "I'm curious about your defensive capabilities. Do you encounter hostile species in your travels?" Veltar's form shimmered with what the humans had learned to recognize as mild amusement. You're thinking like a young species still concerned with territorial conflicts. Once civilizations evolve beyond the need for violence, such considerations become irrelevant. The Harmony's promise requires no defensive systems because we only contact peaceful species. But what if you encountered an aggressive civilization? Santos pressed. Such species are quarantined to their home systems until they achieve peaceful maturity, Dr. Helix explained. The galaxy is vast enough to avoid contact with species that haven't yet learned to resolve conflicts through cooperation. The human delegates exchanged subtle glances. The aliens' approach to aggressive species was telling. They simply avoided them rather than developing defenses. This suggested both admirable restraint and dangerous vulnerability. As the day progressed, the cultural exchange deepened. The aliens shared technologies that could revolutionize human medicine, agriculture, and energy production. They offered knowledge that could accelerate human space exploration by centuries. But they also revealed the fundamental flaw in their understanding of the universe. They had never encountered a species that could choose between peace and war, based on circumstances rather than evolutionary limitations. Dr. Vasquez participated in a presentation about galactic governance. Learning that the Council operated on consensus and voluntary cooperation, there were no enforcement mechanisms, no military forces, and no contingency plans for dealing with species that might exploit others' peaceful nature. "What happens if a member species violates Council principles?" she asked. "Such violations are virtually unknown," Veltar replied. "Peaceful species naturally respect agreements and consider the welfare of others. We've had only 3 instances of policy disagreements in the past millennium, all resolved through mediation. But hypothetically, if a species became aggressive after joining the Council, the question seemed to genuinely puzzle the aliens. Dr. Helix responded after conferring with other crew members. "We have no protocols for such a situation, because our screening process ensures that only truly peaceful species are offered membership. Aggressive tendencies are evolutionary traits that species either abandon or retain. They cannot be selectively activated." The humans now understood the enormous opportunity and responsibility they faced. The galactic civilization was real, beneficial, and completely defenseless against any species that understood strategic deception. Meanwhile, on Earth, military leaders monitored the delegation's progress through encrypted communications. Every observation was immediately analyzed by strategic assessment teams who were reaching the same conclusions as their representatives aboard the alien ship. At the Pentagon, General Morrison reviewed the latest intelligence briefings with growing concern. "The aliens have capabilities that could transform human civilization," she told the Joint Chiefs. "But they also represent a potential vulnerability to themselves and every peaceful species in their alliance." "Explain," requested Admiral Thompson. "They've created a galactic civilization based on the assumption that peaceful species remain peaceful under all circumstances. They have no defenses against species that might choose aggression as a strategic option." The implication was clear. Humanity could benefit enormously from galactic membership, but they would also inherit responsibility for protecting a civilization that had forgotten how to protect itself. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Captain Veltar made an offer that would change everything. We are prepared to grant humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Your species demonstrates all the characteristics we value: environmental consciousness, international cooperation, and commitment to peaceful coexistence. Dr. Vasquez accepted graciously, knowing that humanity's response would be unlike anything the aliens expected. Back on Earth, the honey badger in the Kalahari Desert continued her daily survival routines, demonstrating the strategic thinking that had carried her species through millions of years of evolutionary challenges. She represented the mindset that humanity had never completely abandoned the ability to cooperate when beneficial and fight when necessary, always maintaining the wisdom to distinguish between the two. As the human shuttle departed the Harmony's promise, both species prepared for a relationship that would test every assumption about peace, cooperation, and the responsibilities that came with ultimate power. The aliens expected to welcome another peaceful species into their utopian civilization. The humans prepared to become the guardians of a galaxy that had forgotten how to guard itself. The human delegation shuttle approached the Harmony's promise with engines running silent, its hull gleaming in the reflected light of Mars. Inside the small vessel, 12 representatives of humanity prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in their species' history. Dr. Elena Vasquez, mission commander, reviewed her final briefing notes while maintaining the appearance of casual scientific curiosity. Hidden within her tablet's memory were detailed technical specifications that military analysts wanted her to obtain if possible. Remember, everyone, she addressed the team, we represent all of humanity today. Our primary mission is to establish peaceful relations and learn about galactic civilization. What she didn't say, what every delegate already understood, was that they also represented humanity's survival interests. Each team member carried concealed recording devices and had memorized intelligence-gathering protocols that could prove crucial if this peaceful contact ever turned hostile. Dr. James Morrison, the team's xenobiologist and no relation to the Pentagon general, adjusted his equipment pack nervously. The alien ship is beautiful, he observed, studying the crystalline vessel through the shuttle's viewports. It looks more like a piece of art than a spacecraft. Captain Maria Santos, the team's pilot and a former military officer, kept her assessment to herself. The ship was indeed beautiful, but her tactical training automatically noted the lack of obvious defensive systems, the vulnerable-looking crystalline construction, and the curious absence of what human engineers would consider basic military precautions. Aboard the Harmony's Promise, Captain Veltar and his crew prepared to welcome their first human guests. The cultural exchange halls had been decorated with plants and artwork from across the galaxy, designed to inspire wonder and demonstrate the peaceful diversity of galactic civilization. Dr. Helix confirmed that all translation and cultural interface systems are operational, the captain ordered. Everything is ready, Captain, the serpentine xenobiologist replied. The humans should find our environment comfortable and inspiring. I've prepared presentations on galactic history, the benefits of council membership, and the technologies we're prepared to share with peaceful species. Excellent. This will be a historic moment, humanity's first step toward joining our peaceful community among the stars. The docking proceeded smoothly, and within minutes the human delegation was breathing alien air aboard their first extraterrestrial vessel. The technology was magnificent, the hospitality genuine, and the cultural presentations fascinating. Dr. Vasquez found herself genuinely impressed by the aliens' achievements. Cities that housed billions of beings from dozens of species, technologies that could terraform entire planets, and a galactic civilization that had apparently eliminated warfare for thousands of years. Your council has accomplished remarkable things, she told Captain Veltar during the formal welcome ceremony. Humanity would be honored to learn from such an advanced civilization. The honor is ours, Veltar replied, his crystalline form glowing with pleasure. Peaceful species like humanity are the foundation of our galactic community. Your environmental consciousness and cooperative spirit will be valuable additions to our alliance. As the tour continued, each human delegate gathered information according to their specialized training. Dr. Morrison studied the aliens' biological systems and medical technologies. Engineer Lisa Park analyzed their propulsion and power generation systems. Anthropologist David Chen observed their social structures and decision-making processes. All of their observations confirmed the same conclusion. The aliens were genuinely peaceful, technologically advanced, and completely unprepared for conflict with any species that retained capacity for strategic thinking. The crystalline hull that looked so beautiful was actually a vulnerability. It would shatter under kinetic impact. The ship's power systems were designed for efficiency rather than redundancy, making them susceptible to targeted disruption. Most tellingly, the aliens had no security protocols, no restricted areas, and no apparent concept that guests might have ulterior motives. Captain Santos, with her military background, was particularly struck by the aliens' naive openness. They showed the humans every system on the ship, explained their technologies in detail, and answered every question without apparent concern for operational security. "Your vessel is remarkable," she told Captain Veltar. "I'm curious about your defensive capabilities. Do you encounter hostile species in your travels?" Veltar's form shimmered with what the humans had learned to recognize as mild amusement. You're thinking like a young species still concerned with territorial conflicts. Once civilizations evolve beyond the need for violence, such considerations become irrelevant. The Harmony's promise requires no defensive systems because we only contact peaceful species. But what if you encountered an aggressive civilization? Santos pressed. Such species are quarantined to their home systems until they achieve peaceful maturity, Dr. Helix explained. The galaxy is vast enough to avoid contact with species that haven't yet learned to resolve conflicts through cooperation. The human delegates exchanged subtle glances. The aliens' approach to aggressive species was telling. They simply avoided them rather than developing defenses. This suggested both admirable restraint and dangerous vulnerability. As the day progressed, the cultural exchange deepened. The aliens shared technologies that could revolutionize human medicine, agriculture, and energy production. They offered knowledge that could accelerate human space exploration by centuries. But they also revealed the fundamental flaw in their understanding of the universe. They had never encountered a species that could choose between peace and war based on circumstances rather than evolutionary limitations. Dr. Vasquez participated in a presentation about galactic governance, learning that the Council operated on consensus and voluntary cooperation. There were no enforcement mechanisms, no military forces, and no contingency plans for dealing with species that might exploit others' peaceful nature. "What happens if a member species violates Council principles?" she asked. "Such violations are virtually unknown," Veltar replied. "Peaceful species naturally respect agreements and consider the welfare of others. We've had only 3 instances of policy disagreements in the past millennium, all resolved through mediation. But hypothetically, if a species became aggressive after joining the Council, the question seemed to genuinely puzzle the aliens. Dr. Helix responded after conferring with other crew members. "We have no protocols for such a situation, because our screening process ensures that only truly peaceful species are offered membership. Aggressive tendencies are evolutionary traits that species either abandon or retain. They cannot be selectively activated." The humans now understood the enormous opportunity and responsibility they faced. The galactic civilization was real, beneficial, and completely defenseless against any species that understood strategic deception. Meanwhile, on Earth, military leaders monitored the delegation's progress through encrypted communications. Every observation was immediately analyzed by strategic assessment teams, who were reaching the same conclusions as their representatives aboard the alien ship. At the Pentagon, General Morrison reviewed the latest intelligence briefings with growing concern. "The aliens have capabilities that could transform human civilization," she told the Joint Chiefs, "but they also represent a potential vulnerability to themselves and every peaceful species in their alliance." "Explain," requested Admiral Thompson. "They've created a galactic civilization based on the assumption that peaceful species remain peaceful under all circumstances. They have no defenses against species that might choose aggression as a strategic option." The implication was clear. Humanity could benefit enormously from galactic membership, but they would also inherit responsibility for protecting a civilization that had forgotten how to protect itself. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Captain Veltar made an offer that would change everything. We are prepared to grant humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Your species demonstrates all the characteristics we value: environmental consciousness, international cooperation, and commitment to peaceful coexistence. Dr. Vasquez accepted graciously, knowing that humanity's response would be unlike anything the aliens expected. Back on Earth, the honey badger in the Kalahari Desert continued her daily survival routines, demonstrating the strategic thinking that had carried her species through millions of years of evolutionary challenges. She represented the mindset that humanity had never completely abandoned, the ability to cooperate when beneficial and fight when necessary, always maintaining the wisdom to distinguish between the two. As the human shuttle departed the Harmony's promise, both species prepared for a relationship that would test every assumption about peace, cooperation, and the responsibilities that came with ultimate power. The aliens expected to welcome another peaceful species into their utopian civilization. The humans prepared to become the guardians of a galaxy that had forgotten how to guard itself.